Hi, hey, hi. It's me, your Void, and I read some books in July. I declared July to be a mood reading month, and the mood reading did not do me dirty. I finished a total of 9 books, one of which I already told you about, so we're not counting it for this little wrap-up thing that this here is. We are going with 8 books. Dad, what else is there to say? Let's hit it. First up, we have Stranger Times by C.K. McDonnell, which is a book about a crew of a very obscure newspaper publication. They write about aliens, they write about the strange and paranormal. They don't really care about how real everything is they write, but they have a very strict ethos of there are people out there who believe this, so we publish it. Doesn't matter if you believe in it yourself or not. This crew is made up of a very rude Irishman that thankfully gets his gun taken away at the beginning of this book. We have a guy who doesn't believe in ghosts but who believes in aliens. We have a guy who does not believe in aliens but is terrified of ghosts and demons. We have the most competent assistant in the world and her foster child who is a very try-hard, I don't give a shit teenager, and a very weird guy running the printing press who thinks clothes are optional in any given moment. And we follow a character named Hannah who is stumbling into all of this because she desperately needs a job and this is basically her only option at this point. Somehow she finds the nerves to put up with all of these people and to get a hang of whatever it is that they publish. And throughout the novel, we figure out that the paranormal aspect of things is actually not that cuckoo and might be realer than people think it is. This book is hilarious. I snort laughed multiple times in just 40 pages and we have 400 of them. Mind you, it has very British humor. A bunch of things I didn't get simply because I don't know the specific culture of Manchester, but it was still funny as fuck. And yes, people get insulted left, right, and center. Peak performance. The bad guy is American. That's not a spoiler. You see that on page 1. And everyone is calling him weird just because he's American. Like, everything that's weird about this guy, everyone's like, Americans. And honestly, I agree. So yeah, this one was hilarious. I enjoyed my time with it. This is very much giving serialized thing. I think there are 4 books out, or 3 books are out, and the 4th one is coming out. Something like that. I really enjoyed my time with it. Fun fact, this book comes with a website and a podcast. They do write these articles. There are snippets of articles in here, like this, and you can read these articles on the website that is titled The Stranger Times, and these articles and short stories are also performed by different voice actors on a podcast. Funny story, there is a story in here about a toilet that is possessed by a demon, and I wanted to know how true the story is, so I googled it, and the first thing that came up was the website actually. And at that point I didn't know there was a website, so I was reading the article and I was like, oh cool, there's a possessed toilet somewhere on the English Isles, and then I scrolled down to the end and it said for more funny stories like this, read The Stranger Times, and I was like, bamboozled again. So yeah, fact check your websites, children. Fact check your websites. Sadly, there is no demonic toilet. I mean, if you know of a demonic toilet, tell me. I want to know. But yeah, I gave this 4 stars, was very entertained. I will try to get my hands on the next installments of this series. The next book I finished was Entranced by the Basilisks. This is like the readiest mood of all time. I looked at my stack of unread books and I was like, fuck it. Boom. Picked it up and 3 days later I was done with it. Or 2.5 days actually. Like, this is a very quick read. I flew through it. It was exactly what I wanted in that moment. Entranced by the Basilisks is book 2, but installment 3 or 4 in the bathhouse romance thing by Lillian Lark, and we follow 3 characters, 2 of which are the titular basilisks, and the other one is a regular as human, but she did a little oopsie and she opened a box that she was not supposed to open, And now she is running around with her hair being snakes and her eyes turning people to stone. Whoopsies. Which is why her boss, one of the Basilisks, is like, okay, listen, you are now, against your will, Serpentkin. I am Serpentkin. I am a very weak Serpentkin and everyone hates me, but I have this one friend that is a powerful Serpentkin who might be able to help us. So these three end up together because they try to fix her snake hair situation. And our Basilisk is a manipulative asshole. I can tell you, I did not like Ari. I didn't like him one bit. I know what he did was coming from a place of being good, but I did not like him. Like, he is manipulating everyone by not just withholding the truth, but by actively lying and causing a lot of problems by himself just so these other two characters have to stay with him. I didn't vibe with that. I did vibe with the character dynamics between Jasper and Emilia, the human and the other Serpentkin. They were incredibly cute to each other. Like, Jasper just being a people pleaser and be like, oh my god, she's hurting and I can't help her. Ah! Like, their relationship, amazing. The whole drama going on between Jasper and Ari was also very good. Like, I ate that shit up. Because Jasper realized how toxic it is for Ari to manipulate them as a triad, and also before they became a triad and this was just the boys. He realizes how toxic it is, but he's also so cut loose from every other Serpentkin by no fault of his own. It's like beef with his grandpa or something. And he's craving this connection and Ari is the only one who's giving it to him. And that is the reason why he is willing to accept this toxicity, because he needs this closeness. It's just the dynamics between the pairs, amazing. The dynamics between the whole triad, not so amazing. Hate that. But yeah, I ate this shit up. The smut is surprisingly underwhelming in this one. I have read 2 other Lillian Larks before. I don't know if you can see it. But yeah, we have three of Hearts, which was amazing. I devoured that one. Deceived by the Gargoyles, I devoured that one and I loved it. That was actually one of my favorite reads of last year, I think. This one, not so much. This one only got 3.75 stars from me because of Ari and the underwhelming smut. I don't know. I didn't vibe with it. Very sad. But they are very easy to read. I have devoured every single book by Lillian Lark that I have read so far. You can fly through these. They are very easy to read. After Entranced by the Basilisks, I was craving another romance, and I just randomly picked up A King of Battle and Blood by Scarlett Sinclair. This book is pure candy, as in the world building is meh, the characters are meh, the character interactions are meh. Everything about this is incredibly mid, but I ate it up anyways. Like a bag of Skittles. I don't know what it was with this book, but I flew through it again. There is a certain kind of potential in here. I can see the world building having this certain spark. I can see the characters have this certain spark where you just know this could go somewhere. It never really does go anywhere, to be fair. But the spark is there, and it's just the way it is written is just incredibly easy to digest. And again, it's candy. I devoured this because it was the specific kind of candy I wanted at this very moment. So much so that I, after finishing this one, went and ordered book 2 immediately. Just so you know. In this one, we follow Isolde, and she is marrying Adrian, the titular king of Battle and Blood, who is waging a war against, I think, basically every country on this continent. And he's like, yeah, I'm just going to conquer everyone. And in order to keep her country and first and foremost her dad safe, she's like, okay, cool, we can marry, I guess. And then you have like the whole country under your thumb because I am the princess of this country and you don't have to kill everyone.
Because I am the prince.
And the big point in all of this is Adrian is a vampire. Vampires! And his army is made up of vampires. Vampires! So they are faster, stronger, sexier than human armies, which is why the human armies have no choice but to fight and die against him. So she's like, okay, well, I marry you and you stop killing my people and we can just go on with our lives. Like, she is so hellbent on hating him. Problem being he's hot. And then we develop feelings and there is a little intrigue about people dying and being killed and people now hating her because she has sided with the enemy and she has not killed him. Like, everyone was like, you are now this close to him, just kill him and be done with it. And she tried to kill him twice, just didn't work. But no one believes her that it doesn't work. So she's a little bit of a pickle. He is incredibly nice to her. He is incredibly nice to her the whole time. Like, she tries to kill him twice and he's like, yeah, whatever. We are also trying our hands at court politics and I'm just, again, it's incredibly mid. The one point I didn't like is the fact that she is such an asshole to absolutely everyone. Like, I get it that you don't want to be where you are. I get it that you hate the guy who made you marry him against you. Like, I get all of that. But there are scenes in here where she's just needlessly bitchy towards characters who haven't done anything to her. There's a bunch of people in there that are actually really nice to her. And she's just bitchy on main for no reason. But then Adrian comes around and everything's fine again because she is all in her feelings about the fact that she wants to hate him, but she loves him and blah, blah, blah. The plot twist at the end, I saw it coming. It was telegraphed pretty early on. So if you have like half a brain cell, you can figure it out. But honestly, this is not a book you pick up because you want to solve a mystery. Like, this is candy. And that is why you read it. You don't read it because you want to have an epic fantasy tale with like bajillion plot twists and the most complicated magic system in the world. I do have to say though, the mix between smut, romance, and the fantasy plot of it all is very odd. It's a very odd mix between it all. It's very hard to describe this one, other than it is candy and I devoured it because of that. Very hard to describe. But yeah, this is an easy read. You don't need brain cells for it. It's not the best thing in the world. It is very entertaining to go through this. So this one got another 3.75 stars from me. Okay. Then we have a reread for me, Scythe by Neal Shusterman. Read this ages ago and I wanted something action-packed with a very quick pacing at the start of the month. So naturally it took me almost until the end of the month to finish it. To be fair, she's thick, okay? She's like, I think 700 pages almost? No, it's just thick paper. It's almost 600 pages in the German edition. She's very shiny, as you can see. So leave me alone. Took me a while to get there, but we got there in the end. A very exciting reread for me. Like, I loved this book the first time around so much that I had to go out and buy book 2 immediately after finishing this. Now, what is Scythe about? Well, Scythe is about a world where humans have cured a thing called dying. Problem being, when humans stop dying, they don't stop getting children, meaning overpopulation is even a bigger problem than it was before. So the humans are now governed, you could say, by a giant AI cloud called the Thunderhead. Very benevolent thing. I love them in book 2. And the Thunderhead has declared that humans still need to die, kind of. So something called the Scythedom was invented, which is a group of people that are allowed to kill other people. And no matter how you die, you are always resurrected, except when a scythe kills you. When a scythe kills you, you're done. You're dead. And we follow Citra and Rowan, 2 teenagers who have been chosen to become scythes. Originally, both of them were supposed to become scythes, but then someone had an opinion on a singular scythe taking on 2 apprentices, and the giant governing body of the scythes declared whoever wins their scythe ring has to kill the other as like their first ever official killing as a scythe. They have to off each other. So it turns into a little bit of a clusterfuck that is then intensified because of course we need to make everything worse over the course of a 600-page book. And we also point out some flaws in the systems and blah blah blah. This is one of those utopian books that very much throws the fact that a utopia is always a dystopia in some kind of way at you. Quick and easy read once you actually sit down and read it. I like this one very much. I like this one very much. I think I want to reread the other 2 books as well, given that there is now a collection of short stories coming out, or has come out, Gleanings, I believe. I am very upset about the cover choices for that. I saw the German cover, because we got this as the German cover, and then for book 3, I believe, they have the cover of the English original edition on the dust jacket. Thankfully, the publisher in Germany double printed the dust jacket with a cover like this, so that I have a matching set, but Gleanings doesn't get this kind of cover. Gleanings only got the other style cover. I'm rambling and I could just show you. So this is book 3, and as you can see, the cover has the same style as book 1, but if you take off the dust jacket and you turn it around, you can see that it has the other cover that everyone who's not a German reader knows. And Gleanings, the short story collection, gets this kind of cover, but not this kind of cover. And that makes me very mad, because that means I will have a mismatching collection. And I hate that. There's also apparently a movie being made, also I've heard. I don't know. I think I saw Neal Shusterman announce that on a TikTok, that there is a movie being made based on Scythe. If so, that's going to be hopefully really cool. Could end up being a Hunger Games thing though. They are somewhat historic companions, I guess. But yeah, that reread also got 4 stars from me. Moving on! Then we were in the week of the final book support group, and even though I didn't try actively to participate in the final book support group, I then decided to participate in the final book support group and at least read 1 book that is going to continue a series. So I finally, it literally took me years to pick this one up, but I picked up The Sugar Game by KJ Charles, which is book 2 in the Will Darling Adventures. And I hit myself over the head with this book, specifically because why didn't I pick this up earlier? Like, I remember that I read book 1. Slippery Creatures, and I wasn't as blown away by this as I was by the Magpie Lord trilogy by KJ Charles. Like, I loved this one. I ate this up. So I was done with this and I was like, I need more KJ Charles in my life. And I picked up Slippery Creatures. And then Slippery Creatures wasn't as cool as Magpie Lord. So I put off reading book 2 forever. And now I came around to it. And oh my god. Either my perception of book 1 is all screwed up, or book 2 is so much better than book 1. I don't know. I don't care. I basically read this in 1 day, but spread out over 2 days because, again, I started this book late at night and I had to sleep, so I slept. And then the next morning, I was like reading the book. Yes. In this one, we follow Will Darling, who owns a bookshop. He has inherited that from his, I think, uncle or something. Irrelevant. And he has somehow stumbled into the lives and misadventures of one Kim Secretan, and they did things together. The action adventure spy shenanigans in book 1. Book 2 takes place, I think, 2 months after book 1, and Will, who is totally not developing any feelings for Kim, no, is wondering why Kim has ghosted him for 2 months. And then shenanigansons, and they meet up again by Kim breaking into Will's bedroom, as one does. Again, this is not the best piece of literature ever written, but it's candy. You have a really good thought out mystery that leads into an epic finale. We break hearts of characters left, right, and center, but we are also finally in a place where we have the balls to tell each other, hey, even though it's illegal in 1920 England, do we want to be boyfriends? So now they are basically boyfriends, and also something happens at the end of this book that forces Kim to actually start working at the bookshop of Will. So all the time, Kim was the one who had basically the power of everything around them, and now Will is in this power position. I can't wait to read book 3. I hope I can pick it up soonish and not just years from now, because I need more. Now I have to throw all these books back onto my shelf. There you go. So yeah, that was another 4-star candy read, and yes! Now we come to a book I have very complicated feelings about. I am talking about The Princess Poison Vow by Hailey Turner. First of all, this book is incredibly heavy. Second of all, this book has so many great ideas, but they don't do anything. It is very hard to describe this book. It lives on character dynamics. The plot in here is basically non-existent. It only sets in at like the 60% mark. And even with that little bit of plot, all of this 500 plus pages is set up for something. And the biggest problem I have with this is it lives on the characters and the character dynamics, but 90% of these characters never meet. Mostly you follow different couples, and they all do something that is, as of book 1, unrelated to everyone else. We have Blaine and Honovi, which, oh my god, I love them. They are amazing together. They are husbands, and they just, their relationship is just so good. On like page 30 or something, there is a scene that broke my heart. We're like 3% into the book and they already broke my heart. Because they are being separated. And they spent most of the time in the book separated. After establishing one of the strongest character connections, relationships I have ever seen. Broke my fucking heart. Another couple that is in here is Zoran and Vanya. Again, their relationship with each other, I ate that shit up. But we only get to see how their relationship started, and then they disappear until the end of the book, basically. Because every time we see Zoran or Vanya in between, again, they are separated. Then half of the important cast doesn't show up until the 50% mark, and that half of the cast is completely unlikable. This book gives me so much trouble describing what is going on, because nothing is going on. You have characters running around like headless chicken, and we get their day-to-day life described, but even towards the end, these descriptions, these daily life-to-life, slice-of-life descriptions, feel like a writer trying to set up the status quo of these characters at the beginning of a book. Nothing in here changes until the very end. And honestly, a lot of this you can just cut. It is very repetitive, and it is a very zoomed in story. For example, Zoran has something called a velocycle. It's a motorcycle. He has a motorcycle. It just has a different name because it works slightly differently. But the way Hailey Turner explains this as a motorcycle and the way it works is just so zoomed in. Like, she literally describes multiple times that Zoran turns the wheel, which is not called a wheel. Like, she has to explain it that it's not a wheel, it's different, and that he turns it to turn the wheel, the front wheel, to head into a different direction. That is how zoomed in the story is. And we get the explanation of how water is filtered. And we get the explanation that they have to filter the water because their environment is very toxic and shit. But this explanation comes around and around. Like, every time someone is taking a bath, they explain these stupid water filters again. It's the same fucking water filters. And we get an explanation of why they need to filter the water every single time. And it's the same explanation every single time. It's very repetitive and very zoomed in. A lot of things in here just have a different name, but you have like a reference in real life. It was so annoying. We are also describing in minute detail what everyone is wearing at every given moment in time. We are describing food in so many details we don't need. It's like everything in here is described in so much detail that we don't have room for any plot to happen on 500 pages, which is ridiculous. I still liked it for the character, for half of the characters, and I liked it for the character dynamics these couples have. And my heart broke every time we had to separate these couples again. But I really don't know if I want to continue with this series. I need someone to tell me if the next books, if book 2 and 3 in this series are just as repetitive with their minute details that no one needs. If they are just as slow as this one is. Because if book 2 and 3 have actual plot, if there is actual shit happening, this setting is going to be amazing. But if the other 2 books are like this, I will be bored out of my mind. I was bored out of my mind. It took me the whole month to get through this book. And I was dreading picking this book up. The only thing that kept me going was the fact that I knew there would be another Zoran chapter. There would be another Vanya chapter. There would be another Blaine, another Honovi chapter. These characters were what kept me going. And it's not only half the cast. The other half is extremely unlikable. So yeah. It is hard to tell you what is going on in here because there is not a lot going on in here. The character dynamics are great, but if you are looking for a plot, keep looking. So I gave this 3 stars, and I am actively contemplating if I want to have the other books in the series. After Princess Poison Vow, I needed something quick, something that screamed candy at me, and since I had already 2 candy reads, I grabbed a book that I knew had the same vibes, and I picked up Thieves and Monsters by Clio Evans. If you have been around my channel for a hot second, you know that I love Clio Evans because they write amazing monster smut. This was not one of them, and I'm so mad at that because this book, we follow a thief who is breaking into the apartment of 3 guys, and these 3 guys can shift and fuse and form Cerberus. You know? The 3-headed dog that is guarding the gates of Hades? That dog. This has to be the worst Clio Evans I have read to date. Because these 3 guys are so hell-bent on hammering home, I am so evil, I am a monster, I am a mafia member, we cannot date you because we are the mafia. And I'm like, dude, it's so try hard. They are so try hard to convince her that they are evil and bad and mafia and monsters. And she is trying so hard to convince herself that they are evil and bad and mafia and monsters. It's just, it's so try hard. And the smut is also kind of disappointing. Like, I was reading some of these smut scenes and I was like, Clio, you're right? Clio, what's happening? Clio. Because Clio Evans writes amazing smut. Just not in this one. There was a lot of it, especially in the second half, but it was underwhelming. It was very underwhelming. The plot in here, you don't read Clio Evans for the plot. Let's be real. If you pick up a Clio Evans, you're not reading it for the plot. And that's basically all you need to know about the quality of the plot. But still, candy, easy to read. I flew through it. It gave me what I wanted. Little less, given that the smut was kind of disappointing. But we got there in the end. I read another Clio Evans. I enjoyed my time with it. I was just hoping for more, I guess. This is another 3-point candy romance. Yay. And the last book I finished this month is River's Edge by, I forgot the author's name, which I got as a NetGalley arc. Simply because this is a reprint that has come out, is coming out. I don't know the date. I think it's out right now. But it technically has been out since 1990? Because this is a reprint in English. I don't know if it has existed in English before, but yeah, this is a very old... I hesitate to call it a manga because it is very much giving comic other than manga from the style. Like, if we look at it from a style perspective, it looks more like a comic than a manga, but it is a Japanese production, so I guess it's a manga. Confusion. I got this from NetGalley. I reviewed it for NetGalley. It is a semi-coming-of-age story where we follow a bunch of teenagers and they all have their own little problems, and they have problems. I gave this 3 stars. I didn't vibe with the art style. And the story, there is no story. But that is kind of the point. It's like we follow these 5-6 teenagers and we like just make a snapshot of their life at the end of their, I think, high school life, and they all have so many problems. And they learn what it is like. They experience their first love, they experience the first relationship, they start to come to terms with their feelings towards so many things, towards death, towards love again, towards each other, to careers, like all. It's very snapshotty, and it is very disturbing at times. But I do have to say, it felt incredibly real. You watch all these teen dramas, you read all these YA books, and everything seems so romanticized and stuff, and like watered down and easy to comprehend. This one doesn't. This one does not hold back. It punches you in the face with the brutal kind of reality of being a teenager. It's not holding back at all, so I appreciated that. It starts pretty random and it ends pretty random. Like, there's no start, middle, end to this story. It all just happens. Like life in high school would just happen. So I like that aspect. Again, I didn't vibe with the art style, and because there was no story thread to follow, I didn't really vibe with the whole thing. I appreciate what the story wanted to do. I appreciate what it did. It's just not my cup of coffee. So yeah, that's another 3-star read. I reviewed it for NetGalley on NetGalley. There are more thoughts about this whole thing and a bit more coherent on my Instagram if you are interested in this. I don't know, I don't care. And that's it. My very long, very rambly, very not thought out wrap up of the books I read in July. There were a lot in there. Mood reading did not do me dirty. I like that. I think I need to do that more often. If you made it to the end of this here video, leave the book stack emoji in the comments, I guess. And I see you in the next video. Bye!